Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to talk about this TV dial watch. These TV dial watches are such a product of the early 70s. They're called TV dial watches because that rectangular case with that rectangular crystal looked like a TV from the 1960s and 1970s. So the TV dial watches were the rage of the early 70s, and they pretty much tend to disappear by the 1980s. Nobody's making TV dial watches in the 80s. In terms of evolution of watches, this is, you have a Gerald Genta constellation from the late 60s. This is from 1969. You can clearly see watch design starts changing. I'm trying to pause this if I can, but I can't. I was going to get another watch to show, but let's just keep going. So in another video, I talk about how the Genta design is such a pivotal design, especially with the C-shaped and the more integrated dial and case. So that's the Seiko, that's the lookalike of the Gerald Genta. Seiko would copy a lot of Omega designs, and they would copy them really well. So these days, if you don't need to get an Omega, if you can get a Seiko, you're really getting this probably better movement quality and just as high quality design and finish as an Omega would have had. But let's move these aside. So in the early 70s, design takes a big shift. And the rectangular watches were so much a product of the early 70s. So this is a Seiko and the key thing with these TV dial watches is you want to be sure that you get it with an integrated bracelet, because if you don't get it with the bracelet, as you can see, the lug is completely a part of the design of the watch. In fact, this watch has no lugs. You can see, my later Seiko from the 90s, you can clearly see how this is lugs out here. Even though the lug, they're trying to integrate it with the band, they don't quite, it doesn't quite succeed. Here the lug and the case and the band are one integral design. This is a 6309 movement, which would become a very standard Seiko movement of the 70s. It has all the features that any Seiko from those days would have had. It has the standard quick set day and date. It has the one interesting thing about this that it varies on later designs is this is actually a 43 millimeter size. It wears much larger on the wrist, almost like a contemporary watch compared to what say typical vintage watches look like, because the most Seikos would have come in around 37 to 39 millimeter, but this Seiko from I think 1972 or 1973, I don't remember, is a 43 millimeter watch. So with contemporary fashions, as nowadays we seem to be in favor of larger watches, this watch actually fits in very well with our current tastes. This has the original Seiko band, and obviously if you have to get a watch from the early 70s, it has to be brown in color and it's gotta have gold plating on it, because it's not the 70s. In the early 70s, they were putting gold plating, or it was a lookalike gold plating on every single thing around them. You had faucets that were plated in gold. You had everything that they could plate in a gold or gold lookalike was being plated, and then they were painting everything brown, and then there was shag carpeting everywhere. Anyway, fashions change, but this watch, the TV dial watches, are such iconic watches of the early 70s. They have almost this very fresh contemporariness about them nowadays, as rectangular watches through smartwatches are again the rage. Nobody really is going for round watches anymore, or they don't seem to be. It has a raise. I wonder if we can see this. As you can see, whereas here the hour index markers are all separately applied, here the hour index marker is actually inscribed on uh, these two golden bands. So it's a reversal, whereas normally the hour markers are raised off the watch dial. Here everything becomes an inverse. Obviously one of the challenges of working with a rectangular watch is that how do you get the hands to hit the 2 o'clock and the 10 o'clock and the 4 o'clock marks, because they're just so far away. And the way they do it in this watch is very interesting because everything's gold plated. The the seconds hand just overlaps completely that band that runs around. You read the hour markers not by really by how the light reflects off the grooves that are made in the band. It's the hands are really bold designs. Just, it goes with the whole aura, the whole design philosophy of this being a very bold watch. This was not a conventional watch under any circumstances, and you realize this is unconventional because the Seiko uh, name is actually at the 9 o'clock mark. It's not at the 12 o'clock mark as you would see with most Seikos, for the simple reason that they wanted to emphasize the horizontality of this watch. This was not, this watch had, it's almost a counterpoint to the day date window out here. It doesn't read very well because I know it says Seiko automatic 17 jewels and you can't really read it that well, but I think if I bring it really close you can read it. But yes, all in all, these TV dial watches are, every collector should have at least one TV dial watch in their collection. And what better TV dial watch to have other than a brown gold-plated Seiko from, I think, 1972. Anyway, please be sure to like and subscribe to my channel. The more subscribers I have, the more videos I produce. And let me know in your comments what you thought about the video and what videos you'd like me to look at next, what watches you'd like me to look at next. Thank you very much.